Welcome back to another episode of Blooom. I am extremely excited for you all today so you can meet our next guest. It is none other than Becky Nova from Lady Landlords. She is a powerhouse in and of herself and an inspiration to many women across the world. If you've ever had a desire to create generational wealth for you or your family, then this interview is for you. And so, Becky, thank you again for being here. Can you tell us a little bit about what you do?
Sure. Thanks so much for having me on. And that I appreciate the introduction. So I always explain to people that I am a cancer researcher by day and a real estate investor by night.
Yeah.
So my day job is I work for a pharmaceutical company. And a couple of years ago, I fell into real estate and really have just kind of not looked back. I always tell people I never planned on being in real estate. I had worked in my field for many years. I really decided it wasn't a good fit for me many years ago. I moved abroad. I lived in Spain for many years. I used to own a tour company in Sevilla. I then moved over to Portugal. I bought a bar over in Portugal.
Wow.
Made a horrible business decision buying the bar, lost everything and moved back to the States about 10 years ago now. And I came back, went back to pharmaceutical research for a little bit, left for the entrepreneurial world, but it becomes very paycheck to paycheck. And I knew that there had to be a different way to do that. Just wasn't sure how that was going to look. So when I was dating my now husband, he is an immigrant from the Dominican Republic and really came to America with this idealistic American dream, white picket fence, with the house and all that type of thing. So it was important for him to be able to kind of change once again his generational wealth. And he wanted to buy a property. And I said, fine, we can buy a home as we compromise in relationships. But I said, if we're going to do it, we're going to find a way to make money from it. And since that first one, we've just kind of not looked back. And now I help other women looking to change their financial outlook and help them be able to buy properties as well.
That is awesome. And I like that you mentioned that you're a cancer researcher by day, because a lot of people don't realize that entrepreneurship, like you said, it's different for everyone. You don't have to quit your job and go in full-fledged, 100% of the time. You can still have a full-time career and use that as a source of income to make investments, and things like that. So I think that's amazing.
I've done it. So I've done it both ways.
Okay.
I've done it where I've said, okay, that's it. Like I'm quitting my job and then I'll figure out what I'm going to do next. Yeah. So I've gone completely that risk taker side. So actually I will say I'm kind of proud of myself trying it this time where I'm still keeping my full-time job, but I will be honest, my goal is not to keep that full-time job until, my 60s. That's not in my plans. But everybody has to do really what works for them. Mm-hmm. And if that's hybrid will be helpful for someone, I hope they kind of think about going that route until they can make that stable income.
No, I definitely agree with you. So along the way, I'm sure you definitely have, like many of us have you had any hiccups along the way? Any moments where you felt like giving up or just like quitting, like, no, what did I do? I got to go back.
Sure. With the actual like buying of rental properties, or with the business that I have, Lady Landlords, helping other women get involved into real estate investing.
Properties in particular.
Sure. Oh my God. Have we had hiccups? Absolutely. One, I will say, and I hear this a lot from the members in my group, I was exactly in the same place. Cool. My husband and I now decided, yes, we're going to buy a house.
Yeah.
But how the hell do you buy a house? We had no idea how to do that. No one in my family had ever bought a house, and no one in his family had ever bought a house. So we had nobody to even go to say like, hey, do you know a realtor, or what's this pre-approval thing? We couldn't even do those things. So it was really a learning experience in the very beginning of what does this look like? Who are the right people that we need? Everything really straight from the beginning. That was kind of like first like stumbling block, was just figuring out where to even go, what the process even looked like. Luckily, we were able to find some good people along the way that were able to kind of guide us. It was not easy to do, but it did really make a difference when we found somebody that had that invested interest in us to help us along with what we were doing.
Yeah.
Then from that point, oh my God. So now we went through that process. We bought the first house. So my plan for how we were going to make money by buying property was to buy a multifamily. The idea was that we could live in one property, one unit, rent out the other, and hopefully be able to at least cover our mortgage or at least really lower our price. I normally live in New York. My husband and I are testing out living in the Dominican Republic for the next 6 weeks.
Nice.
So that's why I get to this beautiful view behind me.
I'm enjoying it too. Like the sunshine is just warming up our Huntsville weather over here. So
I was hoping it would, right? Like, so we all kind of need in this day, we all need a little more extra sunlight and a little extra warmth. So I hope that some of the viewers out there can kind of feel that and sense that.
Yeah.
But so now we finally found this house. We found our duplex. We closed, we moved in. The next day, day 2, all of a sudden we're like, oh, like that leak that we noticed during our walkthrough, that's still kind of there. And the seller we brought it up at the closing, as you're supposed to. Hey, we found a leak at the walkthrough. Okay, totally not, something that's uncommon. It happens. So the seller said, sure, not a problem. We'll take care and we'll fix that for you. Mm-hmm. So said, all right, not a problem. So the next day now, day 2, that leak's now getting worse. So we call him and he says, sure, I'll come by. He did agree. He did follow through.
Okay, good.
And he sent his handyman out. And the handyman was just like, this is above my pay grade. This is like, you need a licensed plumber. This is going to cost money. And he calls the owner, the seller, right? We're now the owners. He called the seller and said, hey, like, I can't fix this. You need a licensed plumber. And the seller was just like, nah, I'm not spending any more money on it. So you fix it. I'll pay you and you can fix it. And the handyman goes, you owe me thousands already. Oh, I'm not doing any more work for you. We were like, okay, what do we do now? So now, like day 2 of homeownership, we have to figure out how to call a plumber. We need to figure out who to get in here to like actually get this work done. And it's a 4-floor townhouse. Right, like really picture like almost like the full house, like that building, right? That's really what it looks like, that row house like that. So we now have a leak going through all 4 floors of our townhouse. Not only the part that we live in, but also the place that we're actually trying to rent out, which once again was supposed to be my great plan for making money. So the whole house, they had to open up the pipes. So now not only do we have a leak through 4 floors, but now we have toilet water through 4 floors of our brand new house.
Goodness. Oh boy.
So now we have tenants that we're trying to show this property to get rented out, right? We need to get it rented. Now we're trying to like hide the leak and like, we have somebody like coming over. We're like, okay, it's 2:00 that they're going to be here. Okay, go move the bucket quick. Let's clean everything up. Make sure, open all the windows, show them, because we were hedging our bets that we would find a tenant, but we'd get the problem fixed before then. It was a disaster the whole time. Like you could just see like my husband's like American dream just like crumbling before him. So, and that was just week 1.
Oh my goodness. And you know what? But that's the real stuff that sometimes unfortunately happens when you're buying a piece of property that a lot of people just don't know, especially when you're stepping in as a first-time home investor. So
yes. I mean, and a first-time homeowner, not even an investor, just homeowner.
Right.
We had water running through an electric panel, and we were like, do we call an electrician or a plumber? Like who?
Yeah.
Who do we even call for that? And we don't have, phone numbers on speed dial. We didn't know anybody. So, it was definitely a learning curve to figure out, just even how to manage the house, let alone tenants, let alone monetarily, any of those types of things, let alone then trying to figure out how to buy the next property.
Right. Exactly. You're right. So let me ask you, so now that you've been through all of that, do you have any tips that you like to share or that you do share with people when you're trying to cultivate the right circle, to make it the smart investor?
Yes. First thing that I would like, I'm going to add one little part more to that story, and then I'm going to answer your question.
Sure.
The reason I'm going to do that is because if you caught at the beginning of my story, I mentioned that we mentioned at closing that that was a problem. And our real estate attorney let us close. She should not have. She never put money in escrow, right? Once that house is sold, that's it. The seller could walk away. They're not required to do anything. So I'm saying that as really a learning tip to everybody listening. So what really should have happened is our real estate attorney should have either said, you can't close until that leak is fixed, or, hey, seller, you're not going to get the full payment. We're going to
Yeah.
hold $25,000 or whatever that number is until you fix that leak. Then once that leak's fixed and you paid for it, then you'll get the rest of the money for the house, so the sale of the house. That
Yes.
never happened.
Oh
So I
no.
say that, yeah, it's okay. We ended up suing my attorney.
Oh my goodness. Wow. Oh,
So that was interesting.
that
So, and we won. So
good. Yep.
we were able to get
I
that
mean,
money
it's
back.
hard not to justify your case with a situation like that. I mean, but still, it's a headache to have to go through.
It is, and then it's also still explaining like you're suing an attorney, which would mean that the attorney should probably know how to deal with that case better than you.
Yeah.
So, it almost seems like an uphill battle. And always the whole point of what you want to do is just avoid court as much as possible.
Right.
But we did end up having to do that. So luckily it worked out for us financially. But my biggest tip is to make sure to vet the people that you're working with.
Yeah.
So for example, we kind of trusted this real estate attorney was used by this person, that was used by this person that we knew. We thought that referral chain was kind of good enough. Sometimes it's not. Our deal was a little more complicated. Real estate was not her main focus. It was something that she did, but not something that was her primary focus in law. So definitely make sure that even though somebody says, yeah, I use this person and they're great, you still are responsible for doing your due diligence to make sure that they are the right person for you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's a very, very good point. So then I
Yeah.
also want to ask you too, you've obviously invested in several properties. Do you have any recommendations for a first-time home investor if they want to purchase a property? What kind of areas should they be looking into? What kind of characteristic traits for a property profile, should catch their eye and things like that?
Sure. So actually the place that I always suggest women to start at is to go back to what do you want out of that property?
Okay.
And what I mean by that is, are you looking for a place that it'll just kind of sit there? Maybe you're not making really that much money from it, but in 15 years you can sell it, retire, and live off of that money, right? Then you're kind of thinking appreciation.
Right.
Then you want to buy in an area where you know that things are going to be increasing, right? So where there's going to be jobs moving, maybe there's, Amazon is opening a warehouse there, something like that. That type of stuff. Most people, though, what they're looking for, most investors are just looking for cash flow. I would probably say 99%, right? If you're doing that appreciation strategy, you got to have some money in the bank to wait 15 years to be able to get your money. Most people are looking for a couple extra $100 a month. Maybe something that'll alleviate your mortgage payment. Maybe something that'll cover your car payment, something like that. So then you have to figure out what cash flow would be helpful for you. Would you want an extra $100 a month or an extra $500 a month? That's going to make a difference. And when you decide what it is that you're looking for, then you can kind of work backwards from there. It's almost like a reverse engineering kind of thing to really pick the best process to go. So let's say then you said, I want to be able to get a place where I'm going to be making $500 a month. I'm going to tell you right now, for $500 a month, that's probably going to be a little bit of your higher priced markets, right? You're probably not going to be buying a house for $100,000 that's going to be bringing you $500 a month. Maybe there's one out there, but you're probably not going to find that. So if you're going to be looking for that $500 a month, you're going to be looking in more competitive areas. You're going to be looking in a little bit more of your urban areas as well, where there's a lot of jobs, there's a lot of movement kind of going on. Also where there's a better economy, especially with what's going on with COVID now. We can't clearly make it through an entire session without mentioning that. But there is a lot of places that industry has completely changed. Completely. Oddly enough, I actually have one of my coaching clients. She is looking to purchase a property in Alabama. So we've been looking into, I know, I was going to say, I have to pick your brain about some of the certain areas in Huntsville and around Alabama in general. But so we've been looking into certain areas around the Birmingham area. And it's interesting to see kind of, out 100 miles, it's been interesting to see which towns have really been impacted more than others based on COVID. Were they known for certain types of factories? Did people end up moving? Was there a certain demographic that got affected greater than another? How did the cities manage it? She found this great property. It had a cash flow too. We were looking at it and we were like, why is this $150,000? This is $500-$600, cash flow. Something's not right about it. That's just the too good to be true, right? We looked into it. I can't remember the name of the town now. It was right outside Birmingham. But the town spent so much money trying to just alleviate a lot of the issues from COVID, which was fantastic, that the city was actually going bankrupt.
Oh no.
And a lot of the industry had left, which what's that going to do to rental prices? That's going to have them plummet. So people are selling that person was selling their house because they probably can't afford the mortgage and they need to get out. But that place was not going to rent for what it rented for in 2019 post COVID. So you really then need to say like, okay, what is the cash flow that I'm looking for? If you're looking for that cash flow, $150, $200 a month, then you say, okay, what's a nice neighborhood where I can really bring in, where I can afford a house that would be probably around $150,000 to $250,000. That's kind of where you would be looking to see that type of return. Okay. Once you do that, then you think, well, what do I want out of renters? Do I want someone that's going to stay there long term? Someone that's probably going to be a little more invested in the community, that plans on being there for a long time? If so, then you want to buy a property that's probably going to be better suited for a family. That's where you want to buy your 3-bedroom, 2-bath, yard, garage, that type of thing, in a good neighborhood with good schools.
Okay.
If you're saying, well, I kind of want that $500 cash flow, sure, I can spend $500,000 to get a house. I can do that with my mortgage. And I want to go though, and I want to buy in an urban area because I want a fast turnover where I can continuously increase rents. So I'm going to look for where that singular bachelor is going to live. Well, singular bachelor, he does not going to want a yard. I'm going to tell you that now. He does not want a yard. He does not need 3 bedrooms. He does not need the 2 baths, right? He's not going to be looking for all that space. He's probably going to want some type of an apartment complex. So you want to, or he's going to want like either in like a multifamily house, right? Maybe then that way he could still have his barbecue in the backyard, but he doesn't have to do grass maintenance. So you want to think really, what is that type of profile for what you're looking to do? Do you want somebody that's going to stay there long term and kind of take care of the property as if it was their own? Or are you looking for somebody that, you're going to be able to increase and really make a difference into the property because you're going to have a lot of turnover over the years? So that would dictate what your market looks like.
Yeah, all amazing points. And so another thing that I wanted to dive a little bit deeper into is funding options.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about that? Maybe give us some tips on some different funding options that maybe some women may not be considering?
Sure. So let's start with traditional funding. I always like to break it into traditional and creative. So thinking traditional funding, simply you're thinking your mortgages, right? So there's 2 real options that I'll kind of go over now with everybody. The idea between those 2 is actually an owner occupied property, meaning you live there, right? So that would be either, we call this in the industry, we'll call this house hacking, right? It's just it's a fun term for what you can really do to just kind of hack the system, make something a little easier on your life. That's when, like I did, that's how I started. We bought a duplex, lived in one side, rented out the other. That was a great way to take advantage of owner occupied mortgages, which means you only have to put down 3.5% to 5% of the purchase price.
Wow.
So that is fantastic. We just talked about $100,000 house. You're talking $3,500, $5,000 to own a property that could be income producing. That's amazing. So that's a great way to get started. That's incredibly popular. If you're like, we don't have multifamilies where we are, or that's not necessarily the strategy that you want to go think about, you can also room hack. Room hack is where you buy a single family house and you rent out the other rooms. So you have to be comfortable having, roommates if that's what's going on in your lifestyle right now and can do that. It's a great way. Same thing. You could still be the owner. You get that appreciation. You get those tax benefits. You now get that cash flow, but you have other people helping you pay that mortgage, and you own, since it's an owner occupied property, you only have to put 3 to 5% down. Fantastic way to get started. Outside of that, right now, once again, also kind of due to COVID, if you're buying an investment property, the best you can really find is somewhere between putting 15 to 25% down. Okay. So a little bit higher. 15 is really, really rare right now. Pre-COVID, used to be able to find investment property mortgages for 10%. That was kind of normal. Right now, you kind of can't do that. Banks just are not lending in the same way right now. So you're really looking at much closer to a 15 to 25% down that you're going to have to put. Now, you might be thinking, how am I going to come up with that 10 to 15, that 15 to 25%? If you currently own a home, think about the equity that you have in that property. You could do 2 different things that might be good responses, might be good outcomes for you. The first would be to do what's called a cash out refinance. when you think about a refinance, many people do that. A lot of people are doing refinances now because interest rates are so low.
Yeah.
So maybe you bought your property 5, 10 years ago. Your interest rate could be points lower right now. But you also have equity in the property. You have been paying down that mortgage for years. So a cash out refinance will actually let you refinance your property. So you could possibly get then a lower interest rate and you can get money back out of that loan.
Mm.
So then you could take that money and then go use that as that 15% or 20% down on another property.
That is an amazing tip. I don't think a lot of people know that. See, that's why
No.
people need to join. If you are listening right now, join Lady Landlord's Facebook group on Facebook. This is this is the platform where you'll be able to ask these type of questions and learn information like this.
And we have women doing these every single day. Every single day. Because now think about it. Yes, when you refinance, you have to pay your closing costs again. And we all remember that. It was miserable, not fun. Got it. But if you can pay just once to lower your interest rate and pull out cash that now you can invest somewhere else,
Yeah.
do it all together at once. Now you're only paying closing costs one time.
Awesome. That is
So it just makes it a little bit easier. The other option you could do if you happen to own your own home right now is to do something called a HELOC, which is a home equity line of credit, right? That's what the acronym stands for, HELOC. HELOCs are, once again, this fits into that category of things that are a little more rare now due to COVID. But a HELOC is basically a credit card that the collateral is your house. And the bank looks at your house and says, hey, your house has this much equity in it. Here you go. Here's a credit card. Go shopping. The great thing about a HELOC is that nobody cares what you spend the money on. You want to come down here to the Dominican Republic and sit in the sun for a month? They're perfectly fine with it as long as you pay them back. But for some people, that might be like, yes, that's exactly what I need right now. But you can use that money from that HELOC and also put it down for another down payment on an investment property. The thing you want to watch there is you want to make sure what your repayment plan is. With HELOCs, usually you're paying interest first, and there tends to be a little bit of a balloon rate. So yes, you only have that low interest rate for the first year. Then all of a sudden now you have to pay the interest and the principal back, and all of a sudden your interest rate increases. So you just want to make sure that you kind of know your numbers if you're going to do that, and make sure you're finding the right cash flow to cover the interest that you need from your HELOC.
That is, I'm telling you, sharing some extremely useful information today. I'm learning a lot too. I tell people I come to these interviews as a also.
Yeah.
I'm so happy that we were able to talk to you. But another thing that we really try to dive into is helping women push themselves out of their comfort zone. I'm telling you, after just spending 15 to 20 minutes talking to you, I can tell that you are a go-getter and you are amazing. So I want to ask you also, tell me a few people that had a huge impact on your life and who you've become today.
Sure. So the one place that I always like to start, and I'm very big into that, taking action, moving forward. Probably one of the people, and once again, this is not a person that I personally know, but I'll start with at least somebody that everybody else can kind of go learn about, is Simon Sinek. Simon Sinek actually has one of the most popular TED Talks ever given, if you're familiar with the TED Talk series. But it ended up turning into a book. Now he has podcasts about it, YouTube's, the guy is absolutely everywhere. But his book is called Start With Why. Same name as his TED Talk. And what I love about it is that you need to understand the motivation of why you're doing something, and make sure that you really understand that it's important to you before you kind of venture out and do something. If I just said, like kind of how we started this interview earlier today, when my husband kind of said to me like, hey, I really want to buy a house. We talked about it. His motivation was, I want that American dream. I'm coming to America for a better life. That's really important to me. For me, I grew up in also a poor immigrant family, and I wanted to do something better for like our future and the future the future family that my husband and I are going to have. So to me, now when we're going through this, and some days we all have those days, I don't want to do anything. I don't want to work. I don't want to deal with tenant phone calls. I don't want to deal with that plumber fixing that, water coming down 4 floors. I don't want to deal with that stuff. If you think about, why am I actually doing this? Why is this important to me? It makes everything a little bit easier. Or you'll realize, you know what? this isn't that important to me.
Yes.
I don't want to buy a house. You know what? Let me put my money in some mutual funds. Let me put it into my 401k, and I'm fine staying at my 9 to 5 job. And I'm going to be perfectly happy with my retirement money when I retire in my 60s. There's nothing wrong with that if that's your goal. But you have to know what it is that's important to you. And that's why I think Start With Why makes such a difference. And I think that's why Simon Sinek was just really made such an impact on me. Once again, not a person I know, but a person that I definitely look up to and kind of follow. Just really for some insight on what are my own motivations and why am I doing something, and should I go that path or should I not go that path?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's pretty awesome too. You bring up a good point too, because a lot of times people I hear, through conversations that people may not have the type of upbringing that they would have desired to have. But with the internet nowadays, you can get a lot of grooming tips and books that can really help shape you into who you want to become. So I love that you said that you are an avid listener to TED Talks and things like that.
Yeah.
It's all about going for what you want and finding a way to get the information that you need.
And just like what you're saying now too, and kind of even your question towards me,
Mhm.
I think it's important also to make sure to surround yourself with other people that are doing the things that you want. They always kind of say, you are a combination of the 5 people around you.
Yep.
So you always want to make sure to kind of like be pushing forward and saying like, well, what is that next thing? What am I looking for? Am I around people that are doing kind of what I want to do? One of the things that I recently realized in my business, like I said, I love what I do professionally. Cancer research isn't clearly important. It is fulfilling. Do I want to do it for the next 30 years? No, I don't. I want to do more of this.
Mhm.
So to me, one of the things when I started Lady Landlords and we started building out different resources that the women were looking for. So we started building like coaches, courses and community and different events for the women to participate in. I realized I didn't have anybody in my circle that was kind of what I saw my future me as. So I needed to find somebody that was a woman, that was a minority, that was in business, that understood real estate, that understood kind of what was in front of me to kind of align myself with. And like I'm talking to her and she'll mention like, oh yeah, well, I was talking to this person. And I'm like, you know her? Like I follow her on Instagram. I'm like, do you know her? So it's crazy then when you could kind of, so I feel like I was almost able to kind of up level what I'm doing just by being able to talk to some other people that are in front of where I want to be. There's nothing wrong with having those people around you that are where you are and making sure to kind of pull everybody along, right? If somebody's behind you, great. Throw them a lifeline and help pull them along with you. That's what this is all about here in life and world and community and love here. But I also need to make sure that I'm grabbing a life rope in front of me so that way I can get pulled in the same direction that I want to be going as well.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And speaking of your future, I think you did an interview with New York Times.
Yes, I've been kind of going around the interview circuit a little bit. So I was in Business Insider recently, and that, oh my God, I didn't realize how many of my friends read Business Insider. Or how many people read the news. I don't know. Because all of a sudden I didn't even know that like that was the day that the original article was going to be published. And all of a sudden I just started getting like messages from people being like, congratulations, or like screenshots, like, why are you on my Google feed? Or other people being like, hey, open my Business Insider email. And like, you're like right at the front. And I was like, what are you talking? I was like, oh my God. I'm like, you read Business Insider? So it was really cool. So then, yeah, I got interviewed by the Times. I got interviewed by Time Magazine. So I've just been kind of like making the rounds here. In real estate investing, there's so many of these male dominated industries.
Yes.
And that sucks. And like, we need to change that. And that was really one of the reasons that I started Lady Landlords, because, and we're not anti-men. We're not in any way. We are just creating a safe space where women can get the information that they know. So I see posts all the time from women that'll come in and they're like, hey, so I got this great realtor. I'm working with him. I vetted him. He's the guy I want to work with, right? They went through and they got all those questions out of their way. Yeah. But then they come back to the group and they're like, hey, he asked me, should I do this or this? I don't know what to say. Ladies, tell me what to say, educate me, make me feel confident. And then they'll go back to him. And then I'll get a post like later on being like, ladies, yep, I went back and I said blah, 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 blah. And he was so impressed that I knew what I was talking about. and I made the right decision. And now here I am closer to my goals. So
Awesome.
we're almost like the secret weapon for women to get the answers that they're looking for and also have fun while doing it and just get to talk to other women about like what else is going on for them? Who else is struggling to get that down payment like we talked about? Who else is figuring out how to do that cash out refinance? Who else is trying to figure out if you call a plumber or an electrician if water is running through your electric panel? Like all those things we can kind of laugh about. But it's really kind of cool when you say like, hey, I have this problem, and you get 500 other women going, been there. I know exactly what that's like. Keep your chin up, keep going. This is what I tried. Maybe you should try it too. There's nothing kind of nicer than that. And it's just a really cool community to get to move more women forward. And if, I kind of was put here to maybe be the vocal for the group, cool. I'll do it.
You're doing a great job at it too. I know Lady Landlords on Facebook has well over 9,000 members and going up. So
yeah,
helping a lot of people. It's amazing what you're able to do.
Yeah, we're going to hit our 1-year anniversary next month in February. We should be at 10,000 members. We easily have, about 300 new ladies joining every single week. And we have hundreds of posts a day of women looking for help, for guidance, for commiseration, to celebrate. That's one of my favorite things when somebody finally gets their first property or gets their first tenant in or gets their first check with that extra money. And they say, look, I don't have my car payment next month. Hey, I can pay for my kids' soccer classes, whatever it may be that was their why, that they were looking for that cash flow. To me, those are my favorite posts. Anything that we could do to celebrate, I think this world needs a little bit more of, especially these days.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So what does the future look like for you? What are you looking forward to in these next couple of years?
So, really, I want to grow Lady Landlords to be the platform that women go to when they want to get into real estate investing. Yeah. I would love, once again, this is clearly when we're all allowed to like be around each other and hang out and hug each other and celebrate. Mm-hmm. But I cannot wait to the day where I can have like Lady Landlords National Convention, thousands of women from around the country, all there to hear female speaker after female speaker that have all been successful in whatever their little niche is to get involved into real estate. Because one of the other things that I think is amazing about real estate and why it was a good fit for me and so many other women is there are so many different avenues to get involved. Mm-hmm. You can get involved in real estate with literally no money. You can get into real estate no matter what your background is, no matter what your wealth is, what your educational background is. It is such a place where it's almost like a level playing field. And there's so many different ways that real estates can work. You can flip houses. You can be a landlord. You can buy other people's mortgages or their tax liens. You can wholesale, which is basically you find a property and you sell it to somebody else. You really are just kind of being that salesperson in the middle.
Yeah.
You never even have to own property. There are so many different ways to get involved, and some of them take literally none of your own money to even get involved. So I just think it's so cool that this is just such an opportunity that it just levels the playing field for absolutely everybody to really get involved. Oh, I want more people to know that.
Yeah, you're right. A lot of people don't.
I didn't think that. I thought you had to be like, old rich man, that was left a trust fund in order to be a real estate investor, and I know I'm not the only one that thinks that, but that is so not true. So like I said, if I have to kind of be, the voice to tell people like, hey, here's how you can do it. And here are the steps. Cool. Let's do it. Let's educate as many people as we can out there and let's see them go towards that financial freedom or just make their bills a little bit easier every single month.
Mm-hmm. I will. I'm going to let you know now that I am joining your group. And I'm pretty sure we're going to have a lot more people joining here pretty soon as well.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. Everybody is welcome. We are known as like the friendly real estate group on Facebook. So come on in, hang out, take a look around, and, always send me a message, reach out if there's anything that I could do to help. I love this stuff. And I'm always willing to talk real estate, give tips. I do a bunch of lives in the group where I give information. We do workshops. We're doing a virtual networking event. Like I said, we're all kind of building towards really, once again, once I can get that national convention, honestly, like I would just be so happy walking into your room, just seeing thousands of women all there doing something to better themselves.
Yes, absolutely. 100%. And so I want to also ask you, I think it's very important for women to define their own happiness and why, like you said, why they do what they do. So I want to ask you, what is happiness for you? Like, what is your spark?
Sure. So to me, what sparks me and lights me up is making somebody else's journey easier when I went through that. I've gone through a bunch of stuff in my life. I feel like I've wanted to curse like 6 times during this live, and I keep being like, let's hold myself back. Because I'm just so like open with just how I talk that I keep like catching myself, and I'm like, no, don't say that word. But like I just feel like, and we all have a story of like what we've gone through. But I grew up in a very poor family. My parents weren't working. They were immigrants to the country. They didn't have high school educations. You know, my mom finally was able to kind of like finish that, but like we just didn't have. I didn't have that role model. I kind of just didn't have anybody in front of me. I had to figure out how to go to college. I ended up in a very abusive relationship during my college years. That was something that I had to figure out, like how to move past that, what was going to be next. I ended up getting, not only through college that I ended up getting paid for, but I was actually able to make it through graduate school as well. And at an Ivy League school that also I didn't have to pay for. If I could use any of that information and help one other woman's journey out there, make her life just that much easier, fantastic. That's what I consider success. That to me is absolute happiness.
Oh, I just love your story.
Oh, thank you.
And the work you're doing is very meaningful and powerful, and I'm sure you're aware of that. But I just wanted to tell you that. So, can you tell all of our viewers how can they get in contact with you and stay in touch? And then maybe if they're interested in some of your coaching programs, how can they find out more about that as well?
Sure. The easiest way to find me: go to Facebook, type in Lady Landlords. You will find the group. Join there. You will see me in the group all day long. So I'm really approachable. But I would definitely recommend going there and joining the group. So Lady Landlords on Facebook. You can also find me if you're an Instagram person at Becky Nova, just like my name is spelled, BeckyNova 24. Nice and simple. For courses, coaching, some of the workshops we have, anything like that, I recommend you go to our website, which is lady-landlords.com.
lady-landlords.com. Awesome.
Yep.
And we will be sure to link all that information in the video as well for anyone who didn't catch that. And Becky, thank you again for agreeing to do this interview. You are phenomenal. You are
thank you.
woman that we definitely want to have here on our platform to inspire and help everyone else grow and succeed. And so I just want to thank you again for taking the time out your day to shine some light and knowledge too, because you shared a lot of knowledge. So for all of our viewers, you'll be able to see this video on Blooom or on our Facebook page. Get your pen and paper, rewind multiple times, pause, and also do not forget to join Lady Landlord's Facebook group so you can ask questions. So Becky, thank you again, and I hope I will speak with you soon.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you too. Bye-bye.
Bye.